Alright. We live? We live everywhere.
Awesome. Nice job figuring that out.
Alright.
Okay, so how about I share my screen and I kind of talk about some of the cool stuff we're up to on the platform side.
Alright. Uh, can you share it first? Share the screen and then
Yeah.
I'll put it into the stream. Here we go. Oh boy, that's a lot of. Alright, when are you ready?
Yeah. I'm ready anytime, so just give me the transition. I'm not watching the stream, so you gotta let me know when people can see my screen.
Yeah, your screen should be online now. Yeah, your screen's online now. It's pretty big, by the way.
Awesome.
It's pretty big.
So we want to demo something that we've been up to for the past week or two. One of the things that we heard a lot was, if you guys aren't familiar, this is Itero. This is our platform for building browser extensions. You can think of it like a staging area. So you can upload your extension onto here and then send out you can do stuff like convert from MV2 to MV3 if it's an MV2 kind of extension. Or if you want to test your extension out, you can also use our test bed that will automatically ship your extension to all your beta testers without a review process. So over here, how it used to be is you click on new version, and then when you do that, you can upload a new version manually, like you would go onto our website and do this. So typically the flow would look something like you go onto your repo locally, so on your terminal or what have you, you would zip up your extension. First you would build it, then you would zip it up, and then you would upload it here. The version would get bumped, and then all your beta testers who downloaded the extension through Itero would get the new version. Now, that is all fine and good, but one of the things we heard from a lot of developers is that they want more automation. They don't want to have to do this thing where you always have to upload a new version. So that's why we built this feature, and it's super powerful. It's the GitHub integration feature. So when you go into a extension now in Itero, you get this settings page where you see all your different integrations. And right now we're focusing on GitHub, but we will eventually have others as well. If you have one that you are really interested in, just let us know. The idea is you link your GitHub app. So here we've linked a GitHub app to our GitHub account. And then we've specified that we want this extension to be associated with this GitHub repo. If we go over to this GitHub repo, so I'll just paste it in here, you'll notice that it looks like a standard Plasmo kind of extension. Now the cool thing about this is it doesn't have to be a Plasmo extension. It could be any sort of extension. And that's made possible by this customizability feature we have. So if your install does something unique, so you need to specify it here. So default is going to be pm install, but let's say you're using some other kind of stuff, or maybe you do some stuff before your build, or maybe you call your build something else. Maybe your package is different. These are all things you can customize. And then you can also provide environment variables as well. You need to also tell us like where your bundle is, and then what is the zip file name, and then the base. So we made it really customizable. So any sort of project doesn't have to be a Plasma extension. It could be literally any sort of extension. As long as you provide us these details, we should be
Well,
able to zip up.
oh yeah,
Sorry, go ahead, Louis.
finish. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we would be able to kind of zip up your repo and then deploy it here into the Itero web store. And that's kind of the idea. So this customization is super powerful for that. If you notice that there is something that is missing here, we try to kind of cover like as many cases as we can think of, but there might be some kind of unique use cases for you. You can also like let us know via our support, but I think this should cover, I would say, 99% of the different kind of projects out there, different extension projects. So it's really powerful.
Yeah, just want
What
to
were we
add
gonna
to
say,
that.
Lou?
Just want to add to that. Like, is that the configuration is optional. If you use the Plasma framework, the Plasma framework configuration would by default apply to this. So the current configuration is using the Plasma framework configuration actually. Yeah. So if you're using a Plasma framework extension project, you don't have to even do it. You don't have to do anything at all.
Yeah, so that's you can see that here where with Wasm Zig is a Plasma extension, and the developer, aka in this case us, didn't actually have to specify any of these. So these are all defaults. You see they're kind of like placeholders because this is what's going to run.
Yep.
And this is what's going to actually like our builder is going to look at this bundle path and this zip, and these correspond to the Plasma framework. So by default, the Plasma framework is supported. If you want to do something else, we have this powerful customization.
So let's talk about some of the customization. Let's talk about a little bit of the customization of the use case, right? The path is very powerful when you actually have a nested monorepo, for example. So your extension is inside a sub package of a monorepo, right? You can specify the path, the base path, for your extension like internal module, right? And that's cover most of the monorepo cases in my book. And then the commands that we have: install, build, package, right? So installation means getting dependencies, right? This apply to monorepo, apply to like a singular kind of extension project. But even if you don't have any but this also apply if your extension is like a zip, like a literally a JavaScript file. That work too, because all of this command would run, but it actually doesn't. They don't really. They don't bell. They do not bell. So the error checking for this pipeline will only check if there's a zip bundle created at the end of the pipeline. So that means that even if your project is like a plain extension with just a JavaScript file, just some JavaScript file and a traditional manifest file, right? As long as you tell us where that, so meaning that if your bundle path, so the bundle path here is actually the path to your manifest JSON file, the final manifest JSON file. So as long as you tell us the path where you have your bundle or where you have your manifest JSON, we would zip it for you and submit it as well. So there's a lot of room. So it handles a lot of that cases. Also, so let's talk about the command line. Right now, most of the command is showing that by default we're using pnpm, right, a package manager to run some of the script. But these commands are actually running on the container shell itself. And so on the container shell, we actually provide GQ, JQ, zip, and even Zig. Zig is also available as well, because that's how we managed to build the Wasm Zig example. And Node.js in general. So you can actually invoking those tools right in those in those kind of command script as well. Instead of using pnpm and npm yarn. Yeah. Well, basically pnpm yarn and also npm also available as well, depending on your taste of package manager. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we have all these different things ready to go. As Lewis said, we have Zig. If you're using something else, let's say you need a dependency that's not Zig and maybe it's something else, let us know, and we can kind of see as people kind of tell us these things. Like, let's say someone's really into like this one specific technology. Let's say Zig wasn't available and people kept talking, hey, we really want Zig. Then we would kind of prioritize and say, okay, let's actually add this into our environment, and then you can easily use that technology. So if you're a Zig developer and you're building a Chrome extension, we support it right out of the box, so you can use it right away. Nice, that's awesome. And so talking about this, let's go into kind of what this flow looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So we linked our GitHub app here, our GitHub repo rather,
Mm-hmm.
and then we've also added the branch that we want to track.
Yep.
Now the really cool thing about this is that whenever a commit is made to this branch, so we can see here, there's a test itero prod. So whenever a commit is made to this test itero prod branch, we will automatically trigger a build followed by an install, followed by a build, followed by a package, zip it up for you. And what are we installing? We're installing this repo based on the base path here. So when we're installing and building and packaging, we're actually taking your code, your sort of unminified, unbundled code. We're building it for you. We're packaging it up, zipping it up, doing all this fun stuff, and then actually submitting it automatically to the Itero testbed store. So let's show a demo of that. So I'm going to go here and clone this real quick.
Yeah. You also want to go to the PR. We have a PR already tracking that branch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the idea is very similar to most of the CI/CD pipeline that people have already seen, in which you would make the PR first, and then you push to that branch, and then every push after that would be, every push that's open by that specific branches would then be tracked by our GitHub app and would then be subsequently queued for build.
Yeah.
And
so
the cool
over
thing
here, go ahead, Louis.
Yeah, another cool thing is that because of how Itero is very focused on developer, you actually do not have to worry about tracking the user or bumping the version manually.
Yeah, so here we have a PR that Louis already created. So just for the sake of the demo, I'm actually going to create my own branch. Let's call it demo branch. And then I'm going to, let's say I want to add a file, right? So over here, added A. So I'm going to commit this. All right, now I'm going to open up a pull request. So the idea here is you can think of this like, let's say someone on your team is working on your extension, and then now they want to create a feature branch and then send a PR once they're ready. So here I have add A. I'm going to create that pull request.
You have to track the branch, by the way. Otherwise, it will not show anything.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to do that.
Got it.
Cool. So here it's going to say user cold sauce does not have a linked account on Itero. So this is just our staging version. This is not going to show up on your side. So I'm going to go over here and enroll. So let me just sign in real quick. Cool. So now I'm going to link my GitHub account. And it's going to ask me to link my GitHub account. And the only thing that we read is your email address. This is so we can confirm that this is indeed you. So your Itero account is tied to your GitHub account. That's the only reason we do that. So we're going to go ahead and authorize Plasma Itero. So there we go. It read my username and we have it linked here. So this is my account settings. That's awesome. So now we can go back to Plasma HQ with Wasm Zig. Then we go back to the pull request. Add A. Now we have this account linked. So let me go ahead and go into the with Wasm Zig directory, and we're going to track the demo branch this time. Cool. So that's being tracked now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another change and push it. So let's open this up in VS Code.
Just remove the file.
And what I'll do is I'll actually change the display name. So the display name is what we see here. and I'm going to change the display name to something else. Cool. Now when we look at the changes, we see that the only change was this, so I'm going to add it. I'm going to commit it, change display name, and I'm going to push it. Awesome. So we made that change, and now what you're going to see is this is the staging, so don't worry about that. And then for the actual prod version, we see with Wasm Zig, and it's currently building. Now, if you want to see what's going on, you can just wait here because it will edit itself and it will say it's complete. Or you can actually go in here and inspect the build process. So you see here we did a pm build. If you go up further, you'll see pm install. This is a complete log of everything that happened. That's the really cool part about this is you get to see, if there's an error or something like that, you get to see why there's an error and so on and so forth. So it looks like it's still building.
I note that the build log, the build log only show log of your command. Only those three commands are being drained.
Yeah.
So there might be some system log that. So there are times when the build might fail if the system log. If there's something in the system that break.
Yeah, so you can see here, the version got bumped, and then with Wasm Zig got updated to with Wasm Zig Amazing.
Yep.
And here we see that everything was updated on GitHub. It tells you the timestamp that it occurred, and if you want, you can configure it even more. But that's a really huge power of kind of having a GitHub integration like this. You can imagine that instead of putting it on a feature branch, which is one use case, right? Like let's say you want your beta testers to look at kind of what's going on with this feature branch. Potentially you would want to track main, right? And then anytime your review got passed, and finally after all that time with doing code review of like 2,000 lines, now you want to merge it into main, which is really exciting. You want to trigger a build on main to automatically go to your beta testers, and you can do that easily as well just by tracking main instead of the feature branch. But there's all sorts of possible kind of combinations and ways to use this. It's really up to you and your developer kind of culture and how you approach development. And we want to make it as easy as possible for you to not fit a mold, but rather to use whatever you're already using to just test easier. That's the goal here. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's the demo. Yeah, Louis, do you have any other stuff you would like to add? I'll just stop sharing my screen and then we can just chat. Whoa.
Discussion. There's actually one minor thing though, is that at the moment the builder workflow is very, very tied to the PR process. Actually, it actually doesn't tie to the branch. Yeah, at the moment the builder does not trigger on each merge. It's actually trigger per activity on a PR at the moment. Yeah, we don't have. Basically, we can. I guess we can add more permission in terms of like tracking other stuff, commit.
Yeah, I can imagine like people could have like what we do. So just to give you guys a sneak peek of kind of behind the curtains of how we do development, we have a main branch and we have a staging branch, and we actually submit a PR to merge staging into main when it's ready. So that could be a case where you could use Plasmo in the staging kind of branch where we accumulate all of the different features into one version. So that could be a potential use case for something like Plasmo Itero with the GitHub integration.
Yeah, I think the idea in my mind would be that the merging to main is like the final production, and maybe you might want to actually, so instead of building for staging, you might want to push that to production actually. So that would be the next feature that we want to build out, which is publishing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and it could be like when you merge to main, it actually publishes to all the different web stores, right? And then
Yep.
staging is what we use for, which is what we called it, right?
Yep.
The staging environment for browser extensions. So it's perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is the. So anyway, I think that's our current stuff. What do we have for Itero? We're gonna into the framework. Let's talk a little bit about the framework. Over the past week, let me go to the changelog for the framework and screen share again. So 0.59.0 is released 3 days ago. Actually, there's a 0.59.1. Actually, you should definitely use 0.59.1 because it contains some it contains a certain bug fixes that Stefan found when I was asleep regarding the binary has some new line that is not that's unknown to Unix machines. So one interesting feature that was added to the Plasma framework over the last like revision is actually the ability to polyfilling browserify packages. So I've seen a lot of modules out there. For example, even Ant's design, right? So Ant Design now actually they want to import process now for some reason. So process, for those who don't know, is so process is a module available in the server side of Node.js, and usually for on the client on the browser that does not exist. So you have to polyfill it with kind of an empty object, basically with a process empty object. And back in 2016, there was this whole push for isomorphism of having module that can work on both server side and browser and on the browser. And I think we're starting to see a lot of those dependency being creeping up and being used inside of front-end module actually, because there's the assumption that it will be polyfill anyway. Yeah, so basically what we did, we add the polyfill into a resolver, and yeah, and we use all the browserify module. That is the most common one. So now you can actually use, for example, like you could use some WebRTC package that rely on a buffer module, for example, with no additional dependencies. You can also use event emitter with no extra dependency at all with Plasma. Yeah. So this will hopefully reduce the amount of dependency people have to add to their project. Yeah, and we also
Awesome.
we also updated the parcel to the latest version, 2.8 I think. Yeah, 2.8.0. There was some changes. The key one I would say is their new bundler. They ship a new parcel bundler that used to be experimental. And what I really dislike about this,
What's like the most exciting thing about the change?
the most exciting thing about the change is they basically bundle in memory first before they run into the file system. So that has been the kind of the core thesis for Parcel for a while, for most of their stuff, which is they want to have. That's why they're being a push for like this memory file system. So far, a lot of their bundling was still using like the real file system. I think on the previous version is they they were trying to just creating like the okay, basically previously there was not a graph data structure. They the so in this new bundle they use this new package called parcel graph to construct this to construct an ideal kind of graph, dependency graph for the project. Yeah, and then there's still basically I I think it's still like very I don't know. I guess it's kind of an open source effort. So I suppose um, I suppose it's like an effort to get it to work, and not really an effort to get it to be awesome. I think. I mean, it's still awesome in a way, right? That people get it to work, but I should read the code. I mean, the code's in Flow, so you need the Flow tooling to work with it, to truly go through all the typing. And it's a giant file with 1,000 lines. So
Sounds like some of your PRs, Lewis.
yeah, but the list is split into many files, many small
Yeah.
modules.
No.
The
Oh wait,
biggest-
are you saying it's a 1,000 line flow file?
a 1,000 lines single file, a single .js file with 1,000 lines of code. Yeah. And
What is the file called?
index.js. Oh yes.
That.
Yeah. I mean, well, so and the biggest function. Okay. So it's a giant logic file with the main like the main what is it? The main function being 900 lines of code. The function that compile everything, is 900 lines of code, and it has a lot of. I tried to read through it, but I kind of because the typing. So I can only translate some of the type of flow type, but there were some type that's nested in the graph package that I cannot really extracting out. Yeah, because that type is bind to this kind of a graph class object, and you cannot really translating flow class type into an interface in TypeScript, or you have to do it manually basically. And it's a little bit convoluted, so I didn't want to spend too much time on that. But yeah, it is a huge piece of work for sure. But anyway, so I didn't bother too much to to change what's broken, to change what's supposedly work, right? Besides
Right.
removing the restriction actually. So one thing that the process bundler do is restrict the size of the bundle, right? So one of the goal of parser is to bundle. Is the main goal for parser is still to bundle for the web, right? And when you bundle for the web, you want to ensure that your module is split. You want your module to split into consumable chunk. If your chunk too big, the browser has to load a huge chunk of file, right? That's not really ideal for your project. So you want your first like serving chunk to be very small, and then that chunk would gradually, incrementally, like lazy loading other chunk into the final bundle, right? So that is applicable for the web. But when it comes to extension, the way that modules are being resolved and the way that we have to load other codes is a little bit different, I would say. Yeah, a little bit different.
Do you see a path where we would rewrite a lot of that stuff to suit extension needs?
Eventually, I think so. Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess not just the bundle, but I mean, there's a lot of things in the bundle and also in the packager that but I think a lot of that can be like tweaked or made or changed to dedicate them to extension actually, right? Yeah. For example,
Yeah,
like even the
it's
way that
very different.
even the way that code is being imported, right? So the browser can web runtime, right? Can use like you can do lazy loading of other resources as long as they within the same kind of hosts, I guess. But with, I would say, with extension, you now have to do that differently. You have to do that. Um, hmm. Well, actually, okay. I would say that for extension pages, it's largely the same. But for, like, for example, content script context, the content script context is run in a sandbox environment, and that sandbox environment has a much different runtime. Much different runtime. Same with background services. Yeah, and even the extension page kind of context still have something to, still have stuff to be desired. But yeah, we like have to, like, investigating, right, how to do lazy loading module with parcel, such that we can split the bundle, right? Like, because I mean, I don't see why. I mean, I know the extension pages can actually load script within its own kind of within the extension bundle, right? As long as you ship the code within the extension bundle, you can run it for the most part, and you can even eval too if you want inside a sandbox page. So yeah, so I would say that a lot of that would require, yeah, like basically duck kind of what is it, duck typing, duck fixing,
Yeah.
duck taping it,
It's like duck patching.
yeah, duck patching,
something
yeah,
like
monkey patching.
that. Monkey patching.
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, it's gonna. I think that because we're loading the code from a local source, it changes things a lot. Um, and I think that there are ways we can think about how to improve that. Um, I think it's amazing that I'm really happy that we went with Parcel.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I guess we could have gone with something like Webpack and then wrote Webpack plugins for browser extensions and stuff like that. But it seems like Webpack is going away soon now with what Vercel is working on with TurboPack. So we might potentially look at that and see how that evolves. But I think the support for extensions built in Parcel is pretty awesome. And we kind of extended that in some ways, right? Either by rewriting or by adding our own functionality to a bunch of stuff. Like, I think we improved HMR massively. And yeah, I think that there is a lot more to do. There is also a ton of stuff to do just in terms of the runtime too, right, Lewis? Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that we've been thinking about when it comes to what do we inject into the runtime to make the developing experience better?
Mm-hmm. Well, not just, yeah, the runtime. Right now we're dealing with, so a lot of people actually don't understand this, but extension has like 3 separate runtime, 4 if you're counting sandbox. Sandbox pages are runtime, but has their own runtime too, their own context. So we're dealing with 4 different runtime here. That's why a lot of time working with, so the key issue that a lot of people have is communication between these runtime, right? Is huge. So one thing that we think about is perhaps there's a way for us to injecting a runtime into to make all this content runtime a little bit more consistency, a little bit more consistent with each other. Is one way we're thinking about this. Yeah, there's another thought we have is abstracting some of the hack that we have to do to ensure some of the runtime is consistent. Yeah, so that's another way to think about this.
No, definitely. Being more consistent, and also, the one we get all the time, and it factors in. There's like 2 issues. that currently you need to do manually. And it stems from this one problem. People wouldn't do this if it wasn't for this problem, which is Chrome doesn't automatically replace content scripts that have been injected when the extension gets updated.
Mm-hmm.
That is the core problem. And what ends up happening is people are like, okay, well, I have to do that manually now. And the way they would typically do it is they would somehow send a message to the basically orphaned content script, doesn't have an extension runtime of its own, and send a message to that content script saying, hey, either undo all the changes you made or just stop working, just go away. And then they need to inject the new content script. But then now when they do that, right, then it comes into what we were just talking about, which is the bundling. Because when they inject the new bundle, when they inject the new function of the content script, it doesn't actually take all the imports and everything, right? So then, like, that's a whole different thing they need to think about as well. So I think this, like, Plasma is so well positioned to solve that problem with multiple different kind of solutions that we'll take. But I think the really, really good start is this thing that we're working on now, the RPC stuff. Really, really excited about that.
Yeah,
So,
by the way, I'm just calling it messaging for now. I rename it to messaging.
yeah.
No more RPC.
No, because it isn't technically remote, I guess. Remote procedure call. I guess it's more of a local, maybe LPC or something like that.
I thought about that. Yeah, I did thought about that, but I don't know. I'm calling it messaging for now, and we can basically abstract all kind of messaging with extension as well. And the
Yeah,
cool thing is
definitely.
the messaging directory has an icon for that dedicated in my theme, and that's why I pick it instead of RPC.
Nice, yeah. Plasma HQ messaging. I like it. Well, Louis, if there's nothing else you want to add, maybe what we can say is, when should the people out there expect to see this um, messaging kind of library to demo? Would it be next week, or how
Man,
are you thinking about it?
I hope we get it done next week, man. I hope so. We'll see.
Well, you've heard it here first, folks. If you look at our stream next week, you might see the messaging library, and we might demo it actually. So
I mean,
stay
the
tuned for
PR
that
is
one.
up. The PR is already up, right? So we are focusing on that right now this week. Yeah, past few weeks I have been doing a bunch of we've been
Do you
shipping.
want to highlight the PR just so if people want to add their own kind of comments on this sort of stuff? I think it's something that a lot of people are dealing with. So maybe highlighting the PR would be useful here.
I don't think you can highlight the PR, to be honest. By highlighting, you mean
What do you
like
mean?
you mean you're showing it here, 310.
Yeah, showing in the Twitch stream,
Yeah,
right?
just rename it to messaging.
Yeah. So this is the draft PR, and this is where Lewis is going to be adding all the code to do all the fancy messaging stuff that we were just talking about. So
Yeah,
follow this as it develops, and stay tuned because it's going to be a good one.
yeah, have fun with it. All right then. Let's see what else we have. Oh, actually, we updated the engineering log a little bit. Uh, yeah, if you're actually interested in some of the engineering challenge we had, the plasma that we face when we're building Itero and also the framework, you can see some of that. Oh, you see most of the struggle on the engineering log. Yeah, some fun stuff in there. If we want to talk, if we don't have stuff to talk about in the future, I guess. All right.
Yeah, lots of good stuff there. And how can people get to it?
You go to okay, you can go to the plasmamode.com webpage. Click changelog. The changelog bring you to engineering log at the moment. I think in the future we likely would split it into engineering log and then a changelog, actually an actual changelog. But the current engineering log is like actually a daily. I try to keep it a daily kind of log of the key problem we were facing on a certain day. Yeah. Or
Yeah, that's awesome.
a key thing we've been we working on every day, and you can see that. Yeah, I guess we're pretty busy. So overall,
Lots to do.
yeah.
There's a ton of stuff to do, so every day there's always something new, right?
Yeah. Excuse me.
And you can even subscribe to the RSS feed, right, Liz?
Yeah, we have RSS, we have Atom feed, we also have JSON feed if you want to just raw data. We also have I was thinking about adding a Twitter bot to this, but maybe in the future. But yeah, we also have link to the Twitter, Discord, and GitHub as needed. I mean, we right now
Remote support.
we actually publishing we publish this on Discord, right, together with this blog every day. So I mean, not every day, but every I would say every quarter. No, sorry, not quarter. I would say bi-weekly.
Every week.
Yeah, every week or bi-weekly.
Bi-week.
Yeah. So well, we'll see. We'll see. All right.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, let's we can wrap it up and say thanks for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed the demos. If you guys were here kind of at the tail end of this stream is being recorded and will be published on YouTube. So if you look at our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see a recording of this stream. But yeah, that's basically it. I'll see you guys next week where we might demo the messaging stuff.
Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in. Take care.
We might take care.